On the bringing in some of the economic developments here, what gives you the most concern about 2023? I mean, you can include economic developments, that being your forte, and we can even, should you want to, expand into Fed policy, though that's not what we usually do. We usually do fiscal policy, but it's difficult these days not to talk about monetary policy and when you're talking about fiscal policy. So, um, I mean, if you want to talk about it, I know that we could talk about inflation and what surprised you. It surprised almost everybody, but it didn't surprise you. So I want to give you credit for that. And so you don't have to take credit for it yourself. But the administration, the Fed, and yours truly were all thinking that this was going to be a temporary phenomenon. The transitory was the word. It didn't turn out that way. But so what, having been so prescient, what do you think about 2023?
Well, but before I go to next year, let me briefly
Sure.
frame that discussion in terms of this year. I mean, if you recall, at the beginning of 2022, we had 2 quarters of roughly negative growth. So the first half of 2022, people were saying, "Oh, well, maybe we're going to have a recession." And normally, when you have a recession, the Fed comes in and lowers interest rates to try to prevent that. Well, the Fed didn't really lower interest rates, but we didn't have a recession, which might appear to be perplexing to some people. But that sort of reinforces the point I've been making all along, is that the Fed has been overly accommodative for so long that even when they're starting to tighten monetary policy, they're still being accommodative. I mean, the Fed balance sheet was up around 9 trillion. That really didn't start to roll off until this summer. They raised interest rates a few times, but when you compare the interest rate to the inflation rate, we have negative real interest rates. And despite 4, now 5 interest rate increases by the Fed, we still have real negative interest rates. The Fed balance sheet is coming down very slowly. So again, you can argue that the Fed has remained, despite all the discussion that, oh, the Fed's tightening and, oh, it's going to cause a recession. Well, we didn't have a recession. The economy rebounded. And to me, that indicates the Fed is not really as tight as people think it is. And that's what's scary about moving into next year, because the financial markets are convinced that the Fed is going to stop at about 5%. So in other words, they're going to raise the Fed funds rate up to around 5% next year, and they're going to hold it there, and then they're going to start lowering the interest rate again. And I don't see that happening. Well, let me put it this way. I hope that doesn't happen, because if it does, I don't think the Fed is ever going to cure inflation. I think the Fed's going to have to go over 5%, and they're going to have to hold it there. So it'll be above 5% through the end of next year. And the unemployment rate as a result is going to go up, and it's likely to cause a recession. But the only alternative to that is for the Fed to do what the financial markets think it's going to do, which is to not raise rates so high and to bring them down sooner. And we're going to miss the rise in unemployment, but we're also going to not get inflation under control. And I think that if we're going to believe Jay Powell, he says that that's their job number one. And I hope he's right, and I hope he sticks to it. But we'll have to wait and see.